Hey everybody, it's time for a serious vlog early this evening. Guess it's not that early, it's 7:22 as I'm speaking. Doing the film that I have coming out, Our Hearts Aren't Disabled, coming soon. My guess is May or June. I I met a couple people and I'm not gonna name them in case they don't want to be named. If you watch this and you want me to tag you in a post later, I will, but I'm not gonna do any of that without your consent. I came into meeting someone, two people in institutionalized living scenarios. One who is elderly, who actually got out to live with a friend who is even more elderly than him. So he lives with his friend, and his physical needs are such that he doesn't need much help, save to put on an arm brace, things like that. The other person needs a lot of care help, um, getting dressed and in and out of bed, and I think some help with feeding for sure. I don't want to speak too out of turn here. And then, as many of you know that follow me in the early course of shooting the film, and fighting the welfare gods with how much they clawed me back for the film, I was clawed back more than a waged worker, and I even had a legal threat against me from a whole other scenario, and tons of sleep deprivation. I cracked and had a psychotic episode, and I myself was in institutionalized care in a psych ward for 8 days. So I have, and I had 10 surgeries as a kid, so I extended stays in the hospital, and every time I'm in those places or near those places, think about those places, I get a horrible feeling. I feel for anybody who is in those circumstances. I know in certain cases, perhaps if somebody's mental faculties aren't fully there, it's really hard to, and I'm glad sometimes perhaps that's not my decision to make. Like if somebody is really violent, or you know is like leaving the stove on and stuff when they go out because they're not able to remember. I think, yeah, in certain scenarios, perhaps some of those uh, type of uh, disabilities and difficulties may require institutionalized care. On the other hand, if we lived in a society where there were guaranteed basic income, and people's families could stay off of work to take care of them, that would probably be better. However, not everybody has a loving and supporting family, so there are scenarios where institutionalized care might be better than an abusive family. So while there may be you know psychological, intellectual needs for institutionalized care, I don't think there's ever a really legitimate good scenario where you say someone requires institutionalized care, just based on their physical needs. Perhaps maybe if they're like in palliative care and about to die or something, from their illness, you could say that. But like, say somebody like me with CP, but is more severe, not able to meet their own care needs, but they're able emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, clearly to make all their own decisions and are not a danger to themselves or others. There is absolutely no reason why someone like that should be in institutionalized care of any kind. And I think the argument is that because the physical care needs are complex and, um, a lot in some cases, that it's just too expensive. And I don't agree with that. I don't think you can put a price tag on somebody's care. It's not fair, because at the end of the day, if you say someone's care is too expensive, you're saying that they're not as valuable a human being, and that is just plain wrong. Somebody's disabilities doesn't invalidate them as a person. If they're a Nazi, or they're going around spreading hate or abusive to other people, that uh, makes them less of a person. But certainly not from physical limitations. And I don't think anybody with physical limitations have to live in one of those places. Now, what does that look like? To me, uh, off the top of my head, it looks like having somebody in an accessible apartment with live-in or as much as they need workers. And some people with disabilities have procured large settlements from injury or whatever, or they just are wealthier. But many of us are very poor, and if my own care needs, were more extensive, I would need to be under institutionalized care too. So I think about these things from a selfish perspective too, because when I age, this could be me. So and it could be any of us, due to aging or injury or whatever, we may become disabled in such a fashion that we cannot meet our own care needs, nor do we have the financial means to pay for them. So, therefore, the government should pay for anybody's physical care needs, allowing them as much freedom as possible. So, like I said, like live in workers, you have your own apartment, um, maybe like one worker does 12 hour shift of work. You're allowed to come and go as you please. It's up to you. Like, maybe that takes a little bit of planning, but it would all be based on the client's needs. Like the client's like maybe okay, like say for instance, maybe the client normally goes to bed around midnight. So you tell your worker, um, you know, shows up to put you to bed or is handy to put you to bed at the time. But you know what? Maybe Saturday night you're going to a party. Maybe you're staying out till 4 a.m. Well, you know, you let your worker know, and that's when your worker comes in. Now, if this were really organized, you'd have all these kind of different workers working different shifts. Um, I I question, whether or not that looks like people living in specialized housing for this, like accessible apartment buildings built just for such people whose physical needs require a lot of care, but who are completely tip top psychologically, emotionally, intellectually to be having their freedom completely. So I think about what what those that would look like. Maybe be easier to be in buildings, but then that that I think there's a slippery slope there to going back to having institutionalized care. So I and also like I like the idea of integrating people into greater society as much as possible. So maybe that's easier to do in designated buildings, and you keep it low rent and stuff like that. But it's like overseen to make sure it's like a safe place, a safe area and stuff. But like whatever gets it done to enable people as much freedom as absolutely possible is what needs to happen. And I am hereby volunteering my services to do whatever I can to affect that change. Now, I need to know, what are the effective strategies here. My gut instinct tells me something like writing letters might be helpful. I need to find out who the people are that I need to write letters to, and I would encourage other people to write these letters. Many people as want, write as many letters as you want. Once we find out who these letters need to go to, arguing for people to be given as independent lives as much as absolutely possible, have their care needs met, and allow them the freedom and dignity of a full life. I'm willing to speak about this, about the moral imperative, you know, how this could be any of us at any given time. If you don't meet a person's physical care needs and allowing them uh, absolute freedom and dignity every step of the way, then you are compromising their humanity and you're saying they are less than in a very fundamental way that I don't think you want to do. Or even if you do want to do, I think you're very wrong, and that needs to change. I'm willing to speak. I'm willing to go testify in court to this, and I'm not willing to be in, you know, groups where it's just people and we're not talking to any policymakers or anything like that. I also acknowledge that my strategy of like writing letters or like finding out the right people to talk to still might not affect the change, but I'd like to do whatever I can and attempt to do that. I just think the idea that somebody's care needs are so expensive they have to be institutionalized is abhorrent. It 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 makes me really angry, and it also makes me really like scared for myself because I suppose I didn't talk about this part. My care needs are pretty low in a way. It is helpful, extremely helpful, that I have loving, supporting family and friends network. And I myself receive Red Cross care every 2 weeks on Friday mornings, every other Friday morning. And what they do is they do my laundry, they do dishes, clean the floors, and in my case, cook a little bacon. That's probably I think that's the sum of this. Yeah. Oh, and unmake and remake the bed as well, because that's I could take sheets off of bed, but I wouldn't be able to put them on and tuck them in. I like to be tucked in tight like a cocoon. Like I don't know. I guess I'm pretend every night going to bed, or morning in my case, going to bed, that I'm a lonely, lonely caterpillar, and this every day afternoon I'll wake up as a gorgeous, beautiful butterfly, but it never quite happens. I'm still that caterpillar, but I like to be tucked in tight just on the off chance it might happen. But that aside, um, so I have that. I have leftover dinners from my mom and grandma because cooking is really tough for me with my compromised fine motor skills. And um, yeah, oh, and my personal care needs. I'm not able to cut my toenails, and I so my mom does that, and my stepdad trims my beard. Again, if I fine motor issue, I sometimes think of getting rid of it again, going clean shaven as I did because I am actually able to shave, but I need to keep it like it's either like beard or nothing. I'm not able to do the technical skills to keep a shaped beard. It would just have to be shaved completely. And I gotta say, I do really appreciate not having this beard, not having to shave every other day, because it'd probably take me like 20 minutes, and I'm standing and I'm like bouncing and I cut myself sometimes, and so I guess I'm just going into these little details to just express my own care needs, to say that they might be more than some people realize, but are certainly not as extensive as some people need. But again, and finally, however extensive your physical care needs are, those should pose no limits on your freedom. You should be able to come and go as you please. If you want to be out at a party till 4 a.m., that should be allowed. Maybe that's something you need to give somebody a little bit notice for. Um, maybe this is a complex network of workers that you can just, well, my regular guy puts me to bed at midnight, but the 4 a.m. guy can handle it now, or woman, or whoever it happens to be. I'm obviously not set on the specifics, and I welcome anybody's opinion on specifics about this. But I tell you, I do not welcome anybody's opinion where they might say, "Oh, well, no, Josh, those needs are too expensive. Um, It's just not doable. Like, what are you talking about? These people don't deserve it. If you say anything like that to me, I will block you because it's not cool. It just, and also, if you think that kind of thing, you have to think about historically. You would be opposed to things like civil rights or like women getting the right to vote, and those kind of things. So it's 21st century. A person's care needs should not limit their ability to have a free and full life in any way. And anything we can do to change that, to make that better, needs to happen, and it needs to have happened yesterday. Okay, so if anybody has any ideas, anything helpful to say, some things where you think I might be a little askew on specifics, feel free to chime in. If you want to be tagged in this post, let me know that too. And fuck, I can't promise any of this will work, but let's try to make a difference here. Okay? Okay. Take care for now. Bye bye.